Welcome to the show, everybody. I want to remind each of you to like and subscribe. On YouTube, we are Film Talk Radio. Today, I'm joined by director, producer of the new hit show, Dark Winds. Sunday, the 30th of July, the new season of Dark Winds premieres. Everybody, this is Chris Eyre. Chris, welcome back to the show.
Great, man. It's great to be here.
So the reviews are in. They're raves, basically. It seems like the critics love Zahn McClarnon. NPR says, back for season 2, Dark Winds is a cop drama steeped in Navajo culture. Washington Post says Dark Winds' second season gets dangerously personal. The New York Post, Dark Winds star Zahn McClarnon finally able to tell our own stories. Roger Ebert says Dark Winds proves itself a TV noir mainstay in the second season. Collider, Dark Winds Season 2 review. Zahn McClarnon commands stellar AMC series. And I got to agree with that. It is stellar. From the very first frame of the very first episode, it has an amazing look to it. How did you get it to look so much like a movie when you're doing television?
I mean, Zahn is hard to take your eyes off of him. Zahn has such depth to him that he's really engaging. I think he has this combination of empathy and true grit. And, it's melded together, and you just kind of watch this guy's face. And, when he says nothing, he's saying everything, in terms of that empathy and that, that tenacity. So I'm really glad that people are responding to it. I think the second season's better than the first. But I'm partial to the series in general. But as far as the look goes, I'm really proud of the look that we achieved with cinematographer Paul Elliott. And it's really just an expansion on the first season, which is, you shoot Monument Valley, you shoot some of the pueblos, namely Tesuque, you shoot Santa Fe, you shoot the Southwest. And I hate to say it, but, you start with good ingredients, as they say in cooking, and, you got a ball game going. So basically, there's a lot of beauty in the Southwest that I think people around the world have seen, but it's nice to see it now. I mean, one of the great attributes that I felt that we stumbled upon this year was because of the schedule, we had to shoot during the winter. I mean, we got our series order in September or so, and we started prepping in October. We started shooting in November, December, January, March. We posted, and we're back on the air in late July here. So it's been a whirlwind to get the second season out the door. And because of that, we had to shoot in the winter. We shot from November to March. And I don't think people are used to seeing what from being a Southwesterner like myself. It snows in Monument Valley. And so basically, you remember the John Ford movies and the John Wayne movies, you see Monument Valley as this arid, desolate, desert. But the thing people forget, and it really feels lived in, is that these people are at Monument Valley. They're in the Southwest. And in fact, there is snow, all around. And so when we went to Monument Valley, there was actually snow on the ground. And we just invited it as a part of the landscape and the scenery. And so it feels to me like these characters are really from that place because we have those kind of anomalies that I don't think people are used to seeing.
I'm glad you brought up Monument Valley. I mean, we know it from the John Ford films, from various cowboy films. I remember one year you were driving back from Sundance in Park City, Utah, and you were looking for hotels in Moab and Monument Valley. Did that trip give you some ideas, or did you recall a lot of that when you were shooting Dark Winds?
Absolutely. If you and I can make any recommendation, it's people should drive, Moab and Bears Ears and Monument Valley and Chaco Canyon and Canyon de Chelly and just these beautiful places in the Southwest that people don't probably go to, enough. And I'm not trying to drive tourism. I'm just saying that took my time driving through Mexican Hat and through Kayenta and Canyon de Chelly, and every time you go, it's just a new love affair of the West and the beauty of the Navajo Nation. And so I definitely had all that in mind. But one of the things that I really had in mind when I was doing Dark Winds and we shot in Monument Valley was I wanted to see Monument Valley in a new way, because I was raised on westerns. I was born in the mid '60s and raised on movies of the '70s, and I just remember the John Ford movies and Monument Valley, and she wore a yellow ribbon, and The Searchers, and I just always said to myself, this is Indian country, and it seems like we should see it through that perspective. And so it was very strange this year because we shot in Monument Valley, and the whole time I remember people saying, "This is so beautiful, this is so gorgeous." And I said, "Yes." But I really didn't embrace that until we finished shooting, and the crew went to take pictures, and we stood above Monument Valley, and I finally let it wash over me because I'd been shooting for a few days and I was just focused on shooting. And now that the shoot was over, I said, "Oh my God, what a relief. I'm in Monument Valley. I'm shooting a filmic like TV series in Monument Valley." And the first images that I remember seeing in movies were images of Monument Valley. And it really was an amazing full circle experience where I stood there and I finally, was just taking in the beauty of that place without thinking of shooting it. Finally, at the end of the shoot, what a relief it was. It was amazing.
And it really joins Breaking Bad, or is, I think, the true follow up to Breaking Bad as a big AMC series in New Mexico. So uh, when we watch HBO, a series on HBO like Boardwalk Empire, or many times an Apple series, Marvelous Mrs. Mabel on Amazon, it's well beyond, in a lot of ways, what we're usually seeing on cable TV or network TV. Is it because something from AMC or HBO has a larger budget, or how do they give you the chance to make it look like a movie?
I think the reason is that we have cinema in mind. When you talk about film noir, Maltese Falcon and Touch of Evil, and you talk about John Ford and the John Wayne movies. From the very beginning, we knew that we were making uh, a pseudo western, which is a revisionist western, which is a noir western. And so we always had that in mind. I always had that in mind as one of the architects of the series, which is it's cinematic. And it's cinematic because of the landscapes and because of the people. And so basically, when I talked to Paul Elliott from the beginning, we talked about cinema and we talked about movies. And, you know, I see movies all the time shot in the Southwest, and it lends itself to the photography that Chris Nolan did with Oppenheimer, which is 70 millimeter, because the landscapes, are a Lawrence of Arabia, are an ocean of arid atmosphere. And so we mixed, film noir, which is traditional classic, which you can see in the first episode in the black and white, and the Southwest cinema, and that was always the goal. I mean, that was always the idea. So I'm just happy that people love the look as much as I do, which is, rich blacks, hard fall off like Rembrandt lighting, um, you know, wide landscapes, beautiful sunsets and mesas, and disclosure of information in which the camera slowly reveals what it is you're supposed to be seeing. And it takes its time in a lot of cases. I mean, sometimes the editing is quicker and speeds up, but the shots themselves take their time. And I think that's that's what movies are about.
Chris, we were talking about the film noir or neo film noir nature of Dark Winds, and we got to that it's based on the Tony Hillerman mysteries. Are you a fan of mysteries? Do you like a whodunit or kind of unpacking? Um, I know one device they use is they have a very important clue, but they brush over it as if it's not important at all. And then later on, you get to find out that, oh, that's what the Maltese Falcon was or where it was. I mean, there used to be a lot more mysteries on TV. And so kind of that throwback to the mysteries of yore, was some of that happening during production?
Yeah, I love mysteries, and I love the suspense of the series. It is a throwback to what you're saying, which is, film noir was part and parcel of suspense and detective, dramas, also in the 40s and 50s. And so, we kind of find that same milieu with this, which is Leaphorn is a detective of sorts as he's exploring the plot and the story. And it's really about disclosure of information, which is, in both seasons, not to give any spoilers, we find out the bad guy is not really the guy. The bad guy is the big bad. And so basically, the big bad is the guy beyond the bad. So, what we have is we have, somebody that we're following and he's the bad guy. But then we really come to find out there's a bigger bad guy. And then I think that, that's kind of where this series has a lot of weight and gravitas to it, which is there's so many bigger worlds to this, such as the sterilization of Indian women that we did in season one, the mining that's going on, in the well, that it's all for the money. That's a common theme in mysteries, but it's with the native element to it, which is, as native people, there's a lot of those old politics and new politics. So I think that wraparound builds just complicated situations and character that we can all relate to and understand. And I think that that's
Well, and there is a positive message throughout, but it's not heavy-handed. You're not hit over the head with it. You're allowed to make your own decisions. And I know you have a all native writers room on the show. Do you think that having that is part of what makes the message so underlying and not out there being told, but you piecing it together for yourself?
yeah, I think that given the fact that we have a writer's room that is predominantly native, we're able to have an ease at some points, which is we don't want to stand upon something like the political part of the sterilization of Indian women. We want to entertain, but we also understand the dynamic and how to make the message part of the plot. So I think that's a tribute to the writers' room and the native writers in particular. The other one is that in season one, we had a Native American priest that was the bad guy. That's only a native upon native kind of idea, which is you got a native writer's room because they understand all the subtleties and idiosyncrasies behind, okay, the bad guy's an Indian guy fighting Indians. And Joe Leaphorn differentiates, okay, I'm sorry that happened to you, but you can't go being a bad guy like this. I mean, that is literally an inside, kind of thinking by native writers. And so in the second season, I think we do the same thing, which is, we come up with all these situations and scenarios that only native writers I would compliment, think in the way that they think. And I think that's what's important about these stories, which is you're seeing a cop drama, but it's from a little bit slightly different vantage point.
And I know you introduced me to Billy Luther, who we've had on the show, and Desba, friend of the show. She came on and talked about her role in Dark Winds. It's a very talented group of people, young people, and I think it's very inspiring. I ran into them all having dinner at Joseph's culinary pub one night. Tell me about Billy Luther? He got Fry Bread Face and Me about to be released more widely. Maybe we'll even have it this October at the fest. And he had done a documentary, Miss Navajo, I believe, before. And what about him did you connect with where you thought,
To piggyback on what you're saying, I mean, I think this is the fry bread age of movies and television for natives, or the golden age, which is it's when everything is happening currently with opportunity for native writers and directors and producers and performers. Billy's been around a long time, just an assortment of native filmmakers that have been around a long time. But Billy Luther in particular, he's been around. He had Miss Navajo way back in 2007, maybe at Sundance. I think I've heard he's making a longer feature on Miss Navajo, The Idea. He has a new feature film that's done and going to come out called Fry Bread Face. And Billy is one of those people that have been around a while and have been working, at these opportunities. And people kind of think people come out of nowhere, but he's certainly been around and paid his dues like a lot of people. And then all of a sudden, when he makes a successful movie like Fry Bread Face, everybody says, "Oh, Billy Luther." And it's like, yeah, but we knew about Billy Luther, We knew about Billy Luther before Fry Bread Face. And so he was one of those great writers that we were able to hire and get in the writer's room in the first season. And then he also is one of the native writers in the second season. And we promoted him to directing. So he directs episode 5 on season 2 and has a feature film coming out. So, Billy Luther probably is a commodity, but he's been around a while, and we've all known about Billy Luther. But he's Navajo, and he's a great filmmaker.
Another friend of the show who makes an appearance in season 2 is Robert Mesa. We had him on last year. He told us this very harrowing story about how he nearly died after he got the owl tattoo. How was it working with him? He's got a recurring role on Grey's Anatomy. We played golf with him. What was it like to finally direct him?
It's so funny because so many of these friends of our native filmmaking community, we've known each other for so long, but I'd never worked with Robert Mesa, and I've known Robert, 10 years or longer. And I never had the opportunity to work with him until this season. And it was so funny because, you step on set and you're like, okay, man, this is, finally we get to work together, put on the basketball shoes and, get on the court together. So it was a long time coming because, we all want to work together. And I got the opportunity to see Robert work and get to direct him. And he showed up and he did a really great job. And he plays opposite of Kiowa Gordon, Chi, in season 2. And it was really interesting because we thought of Robert, as an actual Chi a couple of years ago. He went on, like you said, to Grey's Anatomy and other projects. But I got to see them standing side by side. That was Robert Mesa and Kiowa Gordon. And they're both different in their tone and delivery and look and so on. And it's just really interesting to see them stand next to each other and perform. Robert brought a real feel of the genre to it. He was playing it, as a mystery, which was really great because you can tell this guy has a secret, and you'll see it in the second season, and you're not quite sure what his secret is, but that's part of the mystery. So it was great to work with Robert Mesa, and finally got that monkey off my back, which is now I can say I worked with him, and I'll work with him on some other stuff coming up.
Let's take a short break and we'll talk a little bit more about Kiowa Gordon. I just think he's does an amazing job, really takes the role of Chi. Is he Lieutenant Chi?
No, he's actually Private Eye right now because he left the Dene police department because they found out he was FBI, and so now at this season 2, he's a Private Eye.
Tell me about the character Chi and how Kiowa worked out so well. How did you create that magic?
Well, I was a fan of Kiowa's as well, and I was at a film festival in 2018 or 17 in California, and they screened the movie by Jeff Barnaby, the late Jeff Great Barnaby, which was what was the second movie? It was you remember?
I can only think of the Blood Quantum. It was the one before Blood
Blood
Quantum?
Quantum. No, no, it was Blood Quantum. So I was at a film festival in 2018 or so, and they screened Blood Quantum. And I'd been a fan of Kiowa's since Twilight and Lesser Blessed. And he came on screen in Blood Quantum, and I just said to myself, that's a Jim Chi. And I remember telling my friend that, and we all went out to dinner afterwards, and I looked at Kiowa across the table, and he probably wondered why I was looking at him so much. Um, and I just got this feeling that he could be the guy. And I think it plays right because when I brought it up with the team, Zahn and George and Bob and Tina Elmo, everybody saw it as well. And I think what it was uh, there's a boyish quality to him. He's a handsome guy. He's a native guy. He's, obviously, like a lot of us, comes from different places, and you can feel that in him. He has a 70s, bent that we put him in that he plays well. He has an ease to him. But the biggest thing was when we were casting, and I was very conscious of this, that Lee Porn is such a generational boarding school curmudgeon guy sometimes, quiet guy sometimes, moral guy sometimes, quiet strength, that I had to have a yang to that yin. And basically what that was you can't cast another quiet, hugely masculine guy. You have to cast a guy that's accessible. And Kiowa's masculine, but he's masculine in an accessible way. He has a quality to him that's inviting and that's young and that's more open and attractively naive in a certain way. So he has an invitation, that he presents. And I knew that we had to have that quality with these two because it's a buddy movie in a way, or a buddy TV series in a way. So you had to have this opposites, and kind of one not only generationally, fulfills the other one, but also that their personalities, are different. And so basically, Kiowa, did his work, and we looked at a lot of people, and that hunch about Kiowa being the guy ended up being the guy. And we've never looked back or thought about that again, because I think Kiowa is an amazing discovery, along with Jessica Matten and Deanna Allison. I mean, that core with Joe Leaphorn, Zahn McClarnon's Joe Leaphorn, Emma, Jim Chi, and Bernadette Manuelito, those performers that make up that foursome, I think are just all amazing. And some of them are discoveries that I think are going to work and work and work.
Did you get to kind of draw on your fandom of those cop shows when you're directing this?
Oh, absolutely, man. I love all the older genre movies and elements. I mean, if you look at something like Sabotage um the Beastie Boys, I mean, it's a parody of the 70s cop drama. But there's a lot of truth in, that aesthetic, and they go way overboard, but it's just so delicious to go overboard like that. And I'm not saying that we do that. I'm just saying that it lends itself to the broadness of the genre. I mean, we're talking about wardrobe, and we're talking about cars, and we're talking about no internet and wide open spaces. And so it's a matter of having all those things that are love of the 70s. And one of the biggest ones, Jacques, is that the music in season 2 is awesome. I mean, we have Creedence Clearwater Revival, we have Bob Dylan, we have Neil Young. And if you watch the very first episode of the second season, it opens up with one of my favorite songs ever, which is Midnight Rider by the Allman Brothers. And just to get that kind of music, John Worth and Peter Chomkowski and Dan McDermott and AMC, the fact that they licensed all those songs, is just a love of the 70s that I remember growing up around. And I just love the whole milieu again of this show. And then I have to go on and I have to say, as far as performers go, I talked about, Leaphorn and She, but, Jessica Matten, as Bernadette Manuelito is beloved by so many people. So is Deanna Allison, because they provide another yin and yang, which is the matriarchal side to this community, which is Emma is like a bedrock of Danae. Like, she's the one who tells Joe this family needs to be put back in balance. And she doesn't ask him if they can have a ceremony. She says, "We're having a ceremony." And he goes, if you had it your way, I'd be in ceremony, every week. And she doesn't even care what he thinks. She's the matriarch. She just is like saying, "This is what we do. This is who we are." And then Jessica Matten, in season 2, incredible performing. And at the end of season 2, her arc really comes into play, which is, not to spoiler alert, but the relationships she has with Leaphorn, in particular, but with the family, are really incredible, because she has these incredible moments at the end of season 2 that are so reflective of Jessica's talent.
Does it make it easier knowing she's going to be great, or is there more pressure because you have the ability to make it great?
Jessica is amazing, because I remember her telling me, when we started on Dark Winds, that she'd come off of a show called Tribal, which is a show in Canada, and basically she told me how they had been doing 18-hour days, and they were doing like 50 setups a day or something like this. And I was thinking, wow, that reminds me of independent film. But that repetition I saw, and it helped us so much in the series, because she would come in and you'd say, "Jessica, we have about a half hour, and if we have to, we'll come back after lunch and we'll finish." And she would come in and she would boom, 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 like hitting jump shots, like boom, boom, boom. I'd get 3 takes of her. I'm like, I guess we're good. She delivered, boom, 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 and you see it all the time. She just does an amazing job of doing her job, and that she's not going to put up with, she's a police officer, but, you can see right below the surface, she has a backbone, and she's going to like step up right away if she needs to.
Chris, this has been fun. Now, there's a Rolling Stone review that just came out, says Dark Winds, a pulpy mystery that makes native characters the stars of their own story. Times have changed ever so slightly. The new Dark Winds arrives this weekend as the first of a trio of summer shows focused on Indigenous characters and featuring largely Indigenous cast. Before signing on to play the new Joe Leaphorn in Dark Winds, Zahn McClarnon was winning laughs as a much more dim-witted lawman on Reservation Dogs. He even shared scenes in one episode with Wes Studi. So I think, Chris, that begs the question, will we get to see Wes Studi in Dark Winds?
That's a great question. I hope we get to see Wes Studi in Dark Winds if we can attract him to the series, which, being a resident of Santa Fe, hopefully that'll help us. But yeah, I mean, it would be great to have, a lot of different native talent that I've worked with and Zahn's worked with, over the years, like Wes and maybe Graham Greene and Sheila Towsey and Tantu
That's
and
Tantu Cardinal.
Tantu Cardinal and Gary, Farmer, and it'd be great to get all these people in the series as well. So hopefully we'll get more seasons after this second season, and we'll be able to keep going. Tony Hillerman wrote, I think, 18 novels, and so we're into the second one, People of Darkness and Listening Women. So we have another 16 to go there, and then Ann Hillerman's writing, and she's done about 5 or 6, and so there's about 24 novels in the library. So hopefully we'll be able to do this for a long time.
Now, is Ann Hillerman a consultant on the show? Have you become close with her since all this started?
Ann Hillerman is actually an executive producer on the series, and she's credited as such. And Ann's great. I mean, she's been to set, and she really was blown away by the series. I had the opportunity to talk to her about it at the premiere last year of season 1. And the thing that I think she said that she loved the most was our casting of Bernadette Manuelito, which is her creation, and Jessica Matten and her, hit it off, and she's over the moon about Jessica being Bernadette.
Oh, I love to hear that. So, Dark Winds is a wonderful period piece. On top of being a cop drama, on top of being an Indigenous show, on top of being a mystery, it takes place in the 1970s on Navajo Nation, or 70s and 80s, right?
Yeah, it takes place in the 70s at this point.
Getting 70s cars, 70s clothes, a lot of period pieces. They're not careful enough, but you really make it look like it's the 1970s. The people speak like it's the 1970s. How do you get that authenticity?
The authenticity of the 70s comes through, I think, the whole group. Like I mentioned, the music, I'm really excited and proud about that. But, that was a John Worth and AMC, licensing thing. Neil Young's one of my favorites. And to have the song, that plays with Bernadette in episode 6, I mean, I just love. But it's the wraparound of wardrobe and picture vehicles. Of course, Kiowa, his haircut from the 70s. I'm teasing him a little bit. Yeah, so it's a big team effort there. I mean, George and Bob Redford and George R. R. Martin love the 70s aspect as well. So I think we've all just contributed to that without trying to make it about that production design. I mean, it's an element of the show, but I don't think that we make it about the 70s as much as we make it about the characters. to live within the 70s. It's been a big group effort to get the 70s play.
Well, and you mentioned being a fan of Neil Young, but isn't Neil Young also a very good friend of yours?
I've been fortunate to know him a little bit and asked to do a music video years ago by Neil, which was great. We didn't get to make the music video, but I'm a fan of his and just artists. I think John Worth, the showrunner, and Zahn and everybody just gravitates towards music and what we remember about stories in the 70s. And if you look at Creedence Clearwater Revival, the end cue for the end of season 2 is "Who'll Stop the Rain." And I'd love the audience just to look at that, which is the music makes the 70s for me, and what I remember about it and where I was, or being a child. So people like Neil Young and the people we're working with really appreciate the stories in that past. So that's what the series is about, is transporting you to the 70s, and music's a huge part of it.
We talked a little bit about you putting together such a powerful team for it, including Robert Redford and George R.R. Martin. Have they been great to work with on the second season as well? Or now that the first one came out so well, are they even more excited about season 2?
I think everybody's excited about season 2. John Worth, our showrunner, who came on the second season, really elevated the show again. Jim Chory, one of our new producers, the second season, really just helped us out with the show and the production. Bob and George both love the show and support us, and both showed up on set numerous times. And for the crew and the cast to get to interact with Bob and George and have that family unit with Navajo Nation. The Navajo Nation vice president came out and sat with us for a day visiting set. It's just an amazing time and place where, like I said, we're in the golden age of Native American film and TV, and it's been a long time coming. I mean, Mr. Redford started the Sundance Institute and had the Native program way back in the early 90s, and I was in the Sundance Labs in the director's portion of that before there was a real separate, Native Labs back in 95. He's always had the initiative to support Native filmmakers. I saw that with Smoke Signals and going through the Sundance Labs and then the Sundance Film Festival. And George has done the same with his Stagecoach Foundation. And we've just got all these people together, with Zahn and the cast and Navajo elders, and it's just something that we hope we can keep doing for a couple more years to come.
Oh, I think it may last a lot longer than that. I mean, with 24 novels, there could be 14 seasons, God willing. So, Chris, that's pretty much a show. Is there anything we can talk about before we wrap it all up and say goodbye to everybody?
Be healthy and be safe out there, and I hope people enjoy the show. We put our love and heart and soul into it, just that people get something out of it, but most of all is that they're entertained by it. So I just hope people enjoy it.
Everybody, this was Chris Eyre, producer, director of the new hit series on AMC, Dark Winds. Season 2 begins July 30th. Make sure to tune in, and we'll see you next week.